Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. We talk a lot about different aspects of running a successful NEMT business, but one thing we haven't really tackled in depth is the whole rate setting process.
Oh, yeah. It's huge, and it can be kind of a headache for a lot of folks, especially those just starting out.
Definitely.
Yeah,
It's this tricky balancing act, right? You got to make sure you're covering all your costs and making a decent profit, but you also don't want to price yourself out of the market or scare off potential clients.
exactly. It's a fine line. And to make it even more complicated, there are so many different factors to consider. It's not just a matter of picking a number and calling it a day.
Right. So to help us unpack all of this, we've got a great YouTube video lined up. It's from, what was it called again?
I think it was MJ Business Academy, something like
Yeah,
that.
MJ Business Academy. That's
Okay.
the one. And they've got two experienced NEMT business owners sharing their insights on how to set rates that are both fair and profitable. So let's dive in and see what we can learn.
Sounds good. I'm all ears.
All right, so the first thing they emphasize, and this is something we've touched on before, but it's worth repeating, is the importance of market research.
Oh, yeah. You can't just operate in a vacuum. You've got to know what's going on in your local area.
Exactly. You've got to know who your competitors are, what they're charging, how they structure their rates, all of that good stuff.
And it's not just about copying what everyone else is doing either. It's about understanding the landscape and then figuring out how you can differentiate yourself.
Right. So, for example, if everyone in your area is doing a base rate plus mileage, and you come in with an hourly rate, that might throw potential clients off.
Yeah.
You need to know what people are expecting to see.
And what they're willing to pay for.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So, market research check. But then it gets even more granular. They dive deep into the whole process of calculating your operational costs.
This is where a lot of businesses stumble. They focus on the obvious expenses like fuel and insurance, but forget about all the little things that can add up.
The hidden costs.
Exactly. Things like software subscriptions, marketing materials, even the value of your own time.
It's easy to overlook those things, but they can really eat into your profit margins if you're not careful.
For sure. They had a great tip, though. Break down your monthly overhead and figure out how much you need to earn per day, even per trip, to reach your goals.
Turn those big, scary numbers into manageable targets.
Exactly. And it ties directly into the next point, setting realistic profit goals. They emphasize that daily earnings will fluctuate. Some days will be busier than others.
Which is why they bring up the importance of diversifying your service mix, right?
Right. Think about it. The profit margin on a private pay client might be much higher than a client who comes through a broker.
So you need a strategy.
Yeah.
What's your ideal income? How many trips do you need to hit that? And where are those trips coming from? Are you relying heavily on brokers, or are you actively building a private pay clientele?
It's like building a diversified investment portfolio, but for your business.
I love that analogy. And speaking of different types of clients, the video breaks down various rate considerations based on the level of service you're providing.
Makes sense, right? Ambulatory transport versus wheelchair transport will have different costs simply because of the level of care and specialized equipment involved. And then you've got factors like distance wait time, those dreaded deadhead miles, all things that impact your bottom line.
And here's where it gets interesting for me. They talk about the power of adding value-added services to justify your rates.
Oh yeah, like what kinds of things?
Well, instead of calling it a loading fee, which might sound like an extra charge, they recommend presenting it as a base rate to clients.
It's all in the framing.
Right. It
Yeah.
just feels more transparent. They also mention caretaker fees for those times when you're providing extra assistance beyond simply transporting the client.
It's about recognizing that your expertise and care go beyond just driving. You're providing a personalized service that caters to each individual's needs.
So think about what sets you apart from the competition. What unique services can you offer that clients would be willing to pay a little extra for?
Maybe you have specialized training in handling clients with dementia, or you offer door-through-door assistance, or you've got a vehicle equipped with extra comfort features. It's about finding your niche and showcasing those strengths.
Okay, so we've got our rates figured out. We're feeling good about the value we're offering, but how do we actually present those numbers to clients without getting pushback?
That's the big question, isn't it? Nobody likes talking about money.
Especially when you're essentially saying, hey, this is what I'm worth.
Yeah, it can be awkward. But the video had a great tip on this. Keep it simple. Give them a clear, flat total amount rather than a detailed breakdown of every little fee.
Like no itemized receipts, just a straightforward, the total cost for this trip is $245,600.
Exactly. It avoids confusion and prevents those awkward moments where a client might question a specific charge.
Okay, so keep it clear, keep it simple. But what happens when things change? Gas prices go up, a new competitor enters the market, Maybe your own overhead costs increase. How do you adapt?
That's where flexibility comes in. They emphasize that prices aren't set in stone. You have to be willing to revisit your rates and make adjustments based on your current situation.
So it's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process.
Exactly. They mentioned a helpful tool called the operating cost per mile formula. Have you ever used that?
I have, actually. It's pretty straightforward. You take your total monthly expenses and divide them by the number of miles you drove that month. It gives you a concrete number to work with.
Right, and it helps you assess whether your current rates are truly sustainable.
So it's about regularly reviewing your financials, tracking your mileage, and being proactive about making those necessary adjustments.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about different pricing models? Should you have a standard rate for everyone or different tiers for private pay clients, brokers, hospitals, and so on?
That's a great question. And the video actually addressed that too. The business owners they interviewed actually favor a uniform pricing approach whenever possible.
Which makes sense from a logistical standpoint. The fewer rate sheets you have to manage, the better.
Right? But they also acknowledge that sometimes you have to play by the rules set by brokers or insurance companies.
Right. Those contracts often dictate specific rates, so you have to factor that into your overall pricing strategy.
But when you have the freedom to set your own rates, they advocate for keeping things consistent across the board.
Okay, but consistency doesn't mean ignoring your target market rate. You still have to consider things like client demographics and income levels.
Absolutely. If you're operating in a lower income area, you might need to adjust your pricing accordingly or explore alternative payment options. Perhaps you partner with local agencies or look into Medicaid transportation programs.
It's about being mindful of your community and ensuring your services are accessible to those who need them most.
And it might even open up new revenue streams for your business. It's a win-win. But regardless of your pricing model, there's one crucial element. They emphasize communicating your value with confidence.
Yes.
This is so important. You're providing a valuable service, and you deserve to be compensated fairly for it. Don't be afraid to own your worth.
So no more apologizing for what you charge.
Exactly. Stand tall, be proud of what you offer.
They had a great analogy in the video. You wouldn't go into a job interview and apologize for asking for a certain salary, would you?
No. You'd highlight your skills, your experience, the value you bring to the table.
It's the same approach with your NEMT business.
So when you're presenting your rates, focus on the benefits you're providing, the safety, the reliability, the personalized care.
And if a client pushes back on the price, use it as an opportunity to educate them. Explain the level of service you provide, the training your drivers have, the extra steps you take to ensure their well-being.
Highlight what sets you apart from those ride-sharing apps. You're not just getting them from point A to point B, you're providing a specialized service that caters to their specific needs.
And if they still aren't willing to pay for that value, then maybe they're not the right client for you.
It's about finding those clients who appreciate what you do and are willing to invest in it.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from market research to operational costs to communicating your value with confidence. But I'm curious, from your perspective, what's the biggest mistake you see NEMT businesses making when it comes to setting rates?
That's a tough one. There are a few that come to mind, but I think the most common one is undervaluing their services. They get so caught up in being competitive on price that they end up shortchanging themselves in the long run.
The race to the bottom, not a winning strategy.
Exactly. And it often stems from not fully grasping those operational costs we discussed earlier. They might be factoring in the obvious expenses like gas and insurance, but forgetting about things like vehicle depreciation, marketing costs, or even their own time.
It's easy to overlook those less tangible expenses.
It is. And it can have a real impact on your bottom line. Another mistake I see is not being flexible enough with their pricing models. They might have one standard rate for all services, which can be problematic if you're dealing with a diverse range of clients and needs. Right? A one-size-fits-all approach doesn't always work.
Especially in the NEMT world, where you might have private pay clients, broker contracts, and even partnerships with healthcare facilities. Each of those might require a slightly different pricing structure to be sustainable and profitable.
So how do you find that balance between consistency and flexibility? It seems like a tough act to juggle.
It's about having a clear framework for your pricing, but also being willing to adapt it based on the specific situation. For example, you might have a base rate for all trips, but then adjust it based on factors like distance, level of care required, or even the time of day.
Oh, like those off-peak hours they mentioned in the video.
Yeah.
If you're getting a call for a 4 a.m. dialysis transport, you're absolutely justified in charging a premium for that.
Exactly. You're going above and beyond the standard service, and your pricing should reflect that.
It's about communicating that value to the client. Instead of saying, we charge extra for early morning trips, you could say, we understand the importance of getting you to your appointment on time, and we're happy to accommodate those early morning hours.
I love that framing. It emphasizes the benefit to the client, not just the added cost. It reminds me of another point they made in the video, being upfront about any additional fees like wait time charges.
Transparency is key.
Yeah.
No one likes hidden fees, and it can really damage your reputation if clients feel like they're being nickel and dimed.
They had a great suggestion. Set those expectations up front. If you're going to charge for wait time, let the client know before the trip, not after the fact.
It prevents misunderstandings and builds trust.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that clear, concise communication we talked about earlier.
So it's not just about the numbers, it's about the entire client experience.
Exactly.
Right.
Pricing is just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
You've got to consider how you present those prices, how you communicate with clients, and how you build those relationships.
It's all connected. And speaking of connections, they brought up an interesting point about client demographics and how that can influence your pricing strategy.
Right. If you're operating in a lower income area, you might need to adjust your rates accordingly or explore alternative payment options.
Like partnering with state agencies or Medicaid programs.
Exactly. It's about being mindful of your community and finding ways to make your services accessible to those who need them most.
Like partnering with state agencies or Medicaid programs.
It's about being mindful of your community and finding ways to make your services accessible to those who need them most.
And it might even open up new revenue streams for your business. It's a win-win. And it highlights the importance of not being afraid to think outside the box when it comes to your pricing model.
So don't be afraid to get creative. Explore different options. Talk to other business owners and see what works best for your unique situation.
And don't be afraid to experiment. What works for one business might not work for another. So it's about finding what fits your specific needs and goals.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And it leads us to another crucial aspect of setting rates, understanding your own worth.
Absolutely. You're providing a valuable service, and you deserve to be compensated fairly for it.
Don't undersell yourself. They made a great point in the video about how NEMT businesses often get compared to ride-sharing services like Uber or Lyft. But it's an apples to oranges comparison.
You're offering a specialized service that requires training expertise and a higher level of care. You're not just driving people around, you're ensuring their safety and well-being.
And that's something to emphasize when you're talking to potential clients. Educate them on the value you bring, the extra steps you take, and the peace of mind you provide.
Exactly. And if they're not willing to pay for that value, then they're probably not the right client for you anyway.
It's about finding those clients who appreciate what you do and are willing to invest in it. Which brings us back to the importance of confidence.
When you believe in your value, it shows.
And that confidence can be contagious. It can inspire your clients to trust you, to value your services, and to become loyal advocates for your business.
So it's not just about setting the right price. It's about believing in that price and presenting it with conviction.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about owning your worth and knowing that you're providing a valuable service that deserves to be recognized and rewarded.
Well said. And speaking of rewards, let's shift gears a bit and talk about some of the non-financial benefits of running a successful NEMT business.
Ooh, I love this topic because it's about so much more than just making money.
Right. It's about making a difference in people's lives.
Yep.
And that can be incredibly rewarding in itself.
They touched on this briefly in the video, mentioning how some clients might be on fixed incomes or have limited transportation options.
And for those clients, your services can be a lifeline.
Literally. You're helping them get to essential medical appointments, social engagements, even just to the grocery store.
You're providing them with independence, freedom, and a sense of dignity.
And that's something money can't buy.
It's priceless.
Right.
And it's something to be incredibly proud of.
So for all you NEMT entrepreneurs out there, remember that you're not just running a business, you're making a real difference in your community.
And that's something worth celebrating.
Absolutely. And on that inspiring note, let's take a quick
Break and come back for the final part of our deep dive, where we explore some practical tips and strategies for marketing your NEMT business effectively.
Ah, yes, marketing, the fun part. Well, maybe not fun for everyone, but it's definitely crucial. We can talk all day about setting rates, but if nobody knows about your business, what's the point, right?
It's like that old saying, build it and they will come. Doesn't really work that way, does it?
Not in the real world.
Yeah.
So let's break it down. Where do we even begin with marketing an NEMT business? What could the video say?
Well, they started with a really important point, actually understanding your target audience. Who are you trying to reach?
Right. Because you could be the best NEMT business out there,
Yeah,
but if you're marketing to the wrong people, it's not going to do much good.
exactly. So think about it. Are you primarily targeting seniors who need rides to doctor's appointments? Or maybe families with children who have special needs? Once you know who you're talking to, you can tailor your message and your marketing efforts accordingly.
Okay, target audience locked and loaded. What's next?
Well, they talked about the importance of online directories, websites and apps specifically designed for finding NEMT services.
Right. Make sure you're listed there with accurate information and a good description of what you offer.
Exactly. It's like setting up shop in the right neighborhood. You want to be where people are already looking for what you have.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about those folks who might not be as tech savvy? Those who aren't searching online for NEMT services?
They had some good old-fashioned suggestions for that too, like building relationships with local healthcare providers.
Oh, yeah, like doctor's offices,
Yeah.
clinics, hospitals, places like that.
Right. Those are prime locations to leave brochures or business cards.
It's about being strategic and thinking about where your ideal clients are spending their time. And of course, word-of-mouth referrals are gold.
Oh, absolutely. Satisfied clients are your best advertisement. Encourage them to spread the word. Maybe even offer a little incentive for referrals.
It's win-win. And while we're on the topic of spreading the word, what about online reviews?
They stressed how important those are these days. People rely heavily on reviews when making decisions.
So make sure you're actively managing your online presence. Encourage happy clients to leave positive reviews on Google, Yelp, all those platforms.
And if you get a negative review, don't just ignore it. Address it professionally. Try to resolve the issue.
It shows potential clients that you care and that you're committed to providing excellent service.
And let's not forget about social media. It's a great way to connect with people and showcase what makes your business unique.
What kind of things should you be posting?
We'll share some behind-the-scenes stuff. Photos of your friendly drivers, your clean and well-maintained vehicles, maybe some heartwarming stories of how your services have made a difference in people's lives.
Humanize your brand. Show that you're more than just a transportation service.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got directories, referrals, online reviews, social media, anything else?
Well, they also mentioned community events, like health fairs, senior centers, support groups, places like that.
It's a great way to get your name out there, network with potential clients, and build brand awareness.
And it ties back to that whole idea of community engagement being a part of something bigger than just your business.
Exactly. People remember those who go the extra mile. All right, so that's a pretty good rundown of marketing tactics, but I think the most important thing to remember is consistency.
Right. Marketing isn't a one-and-done thing.
It's an ongoing process that requires effort and experimentation, but it's so worth it when you start seeing those efforts translate into a thriving business.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've covered just about everything for today, don't you?
I think so. We've gone from market research to operational costs to marketing strategies. It's been quite a journey.
It has. But I think the biggest takeaway for our listeners is this: approach your business with intentionality and a deep understanding of the value you provide.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Don't be afraid to charge what you're worth, embrace the opportunity to make a difference in your community, and never stop learning and growing.
And to our amazing listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you feel empowered and inspired to take your NEMT businesses to the next level.
Absolutely. And remember, you're not just providing transportation, you're providing independence, freedom, and peace of mind. And that is truly something special.
Beautifully said. Well, until next time, keep up the great work and keep making a difference.
See you on the next Deep Dive.